We keep things rolling on this edition of the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch here on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and it was just last week that we were not only talking about a Bears road to victory against the Raiders, and now heading into this bye week that we saw that the Chicago Bears, reported by CNBC, were now valued at nearly $9 billion, and that they had set their sights on Arlington Heights as the official home of the new stadium for the Chicago Bears. Well, just this week, we have seen renderings of what the new stadium will look like, and it's something special. Kind of looks like a silver gray version of the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, which in itself is big, and because of the skyline of Vegas kind of pops, but nothing inspiring. Nothing like, what they have in Minnesota, even Lucas Oil, what Jerry has, SoFi, so on and so forth, right? It just so happens to be the same architect, the same designer that did Allegiant is also doing the Chicago Bears new stadium. So, obviously, this being a bye week, the biggest story isn't necessarily what's going on the field. We'll get back to that in enough time. But it's what the Chicago Bears now are asking after being valued at $9 billion, after officially naming Arlington Heights the location of their stadium. This story comes to us from ABC7. Rob Hughes, Illinois Arlington Heights leaders discuss funding construction of new Bear Stadium. State and local leaders are speaking out about the next step for the Chicago Bears' planned new stadium in Arlington Heights. While the Bears are promising more than $2 billion to fund a new fixed-roof stadium, the team is also seeking $855 million in public funding for infrastructure to, quote, jumpstart the redevelopment potential of the Arlington Park site. And continuing down in the article, they have quotes from the mayor of Arlington Heights, but I wanted to point this out. Tuesday's release of new economic projections from both the Bears and Arlington Heights appeared to be nearly in lockstep all the way down to the annual tax revenue for the village. The Bears are projecting $18 million, while Arlington Heights numbers show $15 million, but both figures could be conservative. Well, this story has been going on for so long. If you're not from Chicago, this new stadium, where are they going to go? The nonsense with Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, with Kevin Warren, the president of the Chicago Bears, and will they go to Naperville? Will they be in the south side of Chicago? Will they be in the lakefront? Are they going to Arlington Heights? Will they go to Indiana? We've been talking about this so long. We had on an expert last year, Professor Andrew Zimbalist, talking about the fallacy that is new stadiums and the economic impact it has on its community. So why don't we actually listen to this interview that I did with the professor? This is a year ago, and yet it is still so pertinent. So let's take a listen to Professor and author of economics at Smith College, Massachusetts, Andrew Zimbalist.
You had a talk with the people at Colorado State a few years back about the honeymoon phase, about what it means for a team to build this new stadium and what it's going to take for a stadium to actually impact the economy. What do you mean by that for fans who are just coming into this only as Bears fans, only as White Sox fans, that don't really have an idea of what's really going to impact them if these deals go through?
One of the things that will impact the fans right away is that it's unquestionable that ticket prices will go up. Part of the reason why team owners want to have a new stadium is because they introduce more club seats and more luxury boxes. And there are also fewer regular seats. Because there are fewer regular seats, the demand supply equation pushes those prices up as well. So one of the things that will happen unquestionably is that ticket prices will go up, and one shouldn't be surprised if you also see concessions and some other prices go up as well. So that will impact the fans. Beyond that, there's not likely to be much of an economic push or an economic gain for the city of Chicago with new stadiums. Football stadiums are used for these days roughly 10 football games a year, and maybe another 10 or on the outside 15 concerts from the likes of Taylor Swift and others. But so you're talking about using a football stadium for maybe 25 days a year. That means that 340 days are dark. It's not being used. And most retailers and restaurants and hotels and even commercial buildings don't find it advantageous to locate next to a football stadium under that kind of very irregular and infrequent usage. Baseball, obviously, the numbers are higher because you've got 81 regular season home games. But still, the baseball stadium by itself is, you're talking about 100 days out of 365 days. And of course, either the football stadium to be used by the MLS team or baseball stadium to be used for local high school tournaments or college games or whatever, you can add a little bit to those numbers, but you're still talking about a stadium that occupies somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 acres for the stadium itself. And then especially for football, you have much more than that, more than the 8 or 10 acres for parking. And baseball, you probably have a bunch of parking area too, and you have infrastructure that takes up land. So you're taking up a lot of land. The financing deal that's usually offered is one where, and this has been the case for Reinsdorf with the White Sox and with McCaskey for the Bears. The financing has been largely public. In the case of the renovation of Soldier Field back in 2002, 2/3 of it was public money and 1/3 came from the NFL. McCaskey, as far as I understand, did not put up anything. But look, the reason why McCaskey and Reinsdorf want new stadiums is because they think they'll generate more revenue for their team and increase their profits. And they should be making healthy contributions here. I mean, look what just happened in Inglewood, Los Angeles, where Stan Kroenke built a new stadium, SoFi. He put $5 billion of private money into that, $5 billion of private, and he's putting additional money into the surrounding area. There wasn't any public money. And so, it can be done. In the case of the Bears, you're talking about a team that's, of course, that Hallis bought that team originally. Senior Hallis bought it originally for $100. So there's enough private money there to chip in. The short answer is that the economic scholarship on stadium building by itself is not very encouraging. You cannot anticipate a positive economic gain. If the city of Chicago is convinced, if the people of the city of Chicago are convinced that the Bears will leave the city and the White Sox will leave the city if there's not a new stadium, then the argument really to provide some public support is this is a culturally attractive element of the community of Chicago. It enriches the lives of, at least not everybody would necessarily believe that, but I think there is an argument that it enriches the community. It creates a deeper sense of community, gives people more ties to each other, more things that they can enjoy together. So that's the value. It's not an economic value. And what really needs to be thought about when Chicago is approached or Illinois is approached for new public funds to build yet another stadium, yet another new stadium, it shouldn't be, hey, this is going to be an economic boon for the city. It's not going to be. It should be, how much is it worth to us culturally to keep these teams here? And on that basis, there could be some public contribution. But one has to be very careful because obviously there are lots and lots of public needs, and you don't want to be squandering the public resources that you have to help a billionaire get a little bit richer rather than, who knows, building new schools or new housing or polyclinics or whatever.
And look, first of all, great conversation with author and economics professor at Smith College in Massachusetts, Andrew Zimbalist. You guys could check that interview out in the archives. We learned so much from him, but you guys know me here. I love the Chicago Bears. I love all the sports team here. I love sports in general. I love pop culture. I love all that. I think it has its place in society. I want to see a WrestleMania in Chicago / Arlington Heights in a new Bears stadium. I want to see a Super Bowl. I want to see a Final Four. I want Taylor Swift and Bad Bunny and you name your favorites at Jelly Roll, whoever, a country star going out there, and a Magic Kendrick Lamar selling out new Soldier Field. Like, I want to see that. I'm a fan of that. But we have a responsibility with these type of platforms, not just as fans and not just as personalities, pundits, broadcasters, the journalists who do these things, which I'm not a journalist, I'm barely a broadcaster, but anybody who has any type of audience, it's important to be honest and be honest with yourself. I want all that. I want the Bears to have a dope stadium. There, like the professor said, there is civic pride to it. There is something to being, ecstatic to go to a game, that when the national television networks are coming here, that you love to see the aerial shots and that there's a vibe to it. There's already a vibe in Chicago, but like you want that modern, that you want to be cool, you want to be hip, you want to be part of the times. I get all that. But with this platform, it's not our job to sugarcoat these things. It's not our job to say just because we're fans, we should allow this to happen. We should be happy that this happens. This is a team that's worth nearly $9 billion. This is a team that has crazy ticket prices, the parking prices, the food and drink prices. A team that still owns nearly $600 million for the stadium that they currently have. A team that hasn't won very much. Don't be fooled. Don't carry water. Don't be ignorant. Ask questions. How is this going to benefit you? How is this going to benefit any local business? How is this going to benefit the school district? It's pie in the sky. And of course, anybody can be hired to give you projections and numbers. But the truth is, we've seen this before. We've seen what impact stadiums have, and it's nearly nothing. Except for the billionaires. Except for the owners. Will you get to have a picnic at New Soldier Field inside the stadium? Will you get to play flag football on the field where Caleb Williams is throwing touchdowns to Roma Dunze? No. No, but they're going to talk as if you can. They're going to gaslight as you can. They're going to try to show you renderings to trick you. Don't fall for it. Let them pay for their stadium. Let them play for their toy. Let them pay for the thing that's going to make them even richer. Don't make it easy for them. And it's up to our leaders, our elected officials, and I know it's tough in 2025 to say this statement, but it's up to them to have our best interests in heart. And opposed to the national politics that we deal with, this is local. You can have an impact on this. This interview was from a year ago, over a year ago. And it's still pertinent, if not even more, because their valuation went up since then. And you have two ownership groups trying to do this to you now, with the Reinsdorfs and the McCaskies. Ask questions. Don't be a mouthpiece. Be a fan, but also worry about your neighborhood, your community. And then ask yourself this question, a simple one. If you're okay, if you're down for this, if you're all for it, are you all for raising taxes so that new schools can be built? Kids can have lunches so that there's after-school programs, there's parks, there's libraries, so that hospitals and different community uplifting things are built? Because if you're not for one, you shouldn't be for the other one. And I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But if we're having this conversation, it starts off with being honest with ourselves and not be hypocrites. Because as sports fans, as any fans in this world, right, there's a lot of things that we could circle back to that make us hypocritical. But this is something we can impact. Let's actually use our voices for this. Let us know your thoughts. We're on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. Make sure you guys subscribe to us there and leave a comment down below. We're here every Sunday night on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com. I'm your host, Mike Mercado.